our speakers today. Flor, if you want to pull up the presentation. And the reason is, well, not only because we're celebrating National Voter Registration Day with a fantastic organization that is represented today, Radical Partners, but also because one of our presenters is Luisana Zambrano, who is a Global Learning Medallion alumna, and I always get super excited when I get the pleasure to bring them back to share their journeys after FIU and how they're impacting their communities. So I'm not sure, Flor, if you're able to pull up their pictures and bios. And I'm also, yeah.
Jenny, do you see it?
No, I don't.
I can go ahead and yes, I'm sharing, and you, Nikki, and Luisiana are seeing it, right, on your screen? Yes.
So because this is the digital world, I'm just gonna say it's a pleasure to have Luisana Zambrano and have Nikki Sachin here today, and I'm gonna let them introduce themselves because I can't see their bios, but they're pretty cool, which is why I wanted to read them. But since I can see them, Luisana, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, or whoever goes first or Flor, do you want to do it?
Right, if you guys, I can read them. If you want, I can see it. You guys can see it, right? Okay, so we have Nick. I want to make sure that I pronounce your last name correctly. We have Nikki Sarkin.
Perfect.
Okay, Manager, Community Engagement at Radical Partners. Nikki sweats the details for the civic and community engagement initiatives at Radical Partners as a manager, activating and mobilizing thousands of local and leaders to engage in strengthening in our region through programs like Vote Miami and the 10 Days of Connection and our social media and communications arm. The Radical Partners social media and communications arm. Before working with Radical Partners, Nikki supported multiple programs and research efforts at Lotus House, Women's Shelter, and Mason Organization, advocating to improve the lives of women and children experiencing homelessness. She enjoys learning from books and humans and finds purpose in educating and innovating away injustice, particularly in behalf of her LGBTQA+ family and in service of dismantling systemic racism. She's a Netflix connoisseur, fierce tennis and volleyball player, and has an unhealthy obsession with fashion. She holds a BA in political science and gender and queer studies from Vassar College and was a visiting fellow at St. Catherine's College, Oxford University. Thank you, Nikki, for being here. Thank you so much. Next, we have Luisiana Zambrano Diaz, our very own. Luisiana is a logistical mastermind supporting across several RAD initiatives at Radical Partners, including the Strategic Planning Summit and Vote Miami. Born and raised in Venezuela, she moved to the United States in 2015 to earn her bachelor's degree in international relations from Florida International University. Go Panthers! She's passionate about social entrepreneurship and community engagement, which has allowed her to work at Startup FIU, the Holtz Prize at FIU, the Ford Fund through the Congressional Hispanic Leadership Institute, and to be part of the Global Shapers Miami Hub. Luisiana is also developing the Flowering Project, a social enterprise that empowers these franchise communities to achieve economic stability. In her free time, you can also find her reading different books and watching interior design videos. And again, she's a global learner, a fellow global learner. So welcome both. Thank you so much for being here. I'll stop sharing. Take it away.
Thank you, Florence and Jenny, for having us today. I'm so excited for being here. As Florence and Jenny were sharing, I'm an FIU alumna. I graduated in 2019. December 2019 with a bachelor's in international relations. I love coming back to FIU because my experience at FIU was amazing. Being involved in different activities, organizations, and departments also shape who I am today and why I am where I am. I'm super passionate, like they mentioned, about social entrepreneurship, and this allowed me to work with this incredible organization called Radical Partners, working with Joanne and Nikki, and working with different social issues in our community. Among those, lower voter incidence rate in Miami through Vote Miami. So I'm super excited to be here with Nikki, sharing about Vote Miami and the work that we do here at Radical Partners. And happy National Voter Registration Day. Woo! So this is so exciting. Thank you so much for having us today. So before we start, we want to quiz your knowledge about Miami's civics. So we're gonna do a little quiz through Kahoot. So please take your phone, or you can do it on the computer. If you're on your computer, just type kahoot.it. We're gonna make a little quiz over there. So let's allow like a minute for you to go over there. And once you are at Kahoot, please add the PIN number for the quiz. So it's gonna be the PIN numbers 3760446, and we have it here on the screen. So once you put the PIN, you're gonna be allowed to add your name, and it's gonna start popping up on the screen as you see. And how this quiz is gonna work, you're gonna have 10 seconds to read the question. I'm gonna read it out loud, and it's also gonna stay on the screen. And you're gonna have 10 seconds to select one of the correct answers that they're on the screen. So you're just gonna select one of the little icons from your screen. And then we're gonna have the answer for that specific question, and Nick is gonna share some fun facts about that specific answer. So it's gonna be 7 questions in total.
Is almost everyone ready? If you need more time, just let us know in the chat so we don't start without you. My favorite part of Kahoot is usually the names that people come up with, like awesome sauce.
I love that.
I'm sorry, not to interrupt, but I believe the chat is disabled.
I'm checking right now.
I'm checking because I just sent a message to everybody. Do you want to check again?
It seems to
Yeah,
work.
works now.
Oh. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I can repeat also the PIN number. So it's 3760446. Okay. Are we ready? Yes?
I think we're ready.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. So we are gonna start with the first question. Okay, so what was the overall voter turnout rate for Miami-Dade in 2016?
Nice job, 3 people. I like that. I like that folks were kind of like 50%. Maybe that's the right answer. I like that. That's a very good guess or
Assumption.
attempt, right? So I'm pleasantly surprised to share with you that it was actually nearly 73%. And we'll go into voter turnout rates later in the conversation. But just something to keep in mind is that 2016 was the last presidential election. And so a general trend for voter turnout is that there's higher rates of turnout when it comes to presidential elections. Ready, Luisana? So way to go, Steph. You're leading the way with the first question.
Okay, so our next question. What was the youth voter turnout rate for Miami-Dade in 2014?
Again, I love the optimism of the 50%. I really do. And I really appreciate you staying steady with the 50% if you repeated it. But unfortunately, no, in 2014, the voter turnout rate for young people, so people under 35, was actually 11.4%. And so right, just how we can compare it and contrast it to the presidential election, which was 2016, but the year before was actually an off election year. And so no president was being elected that year, which means the turnout rate was down low. And on top of that, the young person voter turnout rate, which we will see again later in the presentation, is consistently lower than older adults. So that's why we're excited to be here with all of you and hopefully improve this number. Awesome Sauce is now in the lead. Steph, I want to see you back in the top. You got this.
Okay, so who is the current mayor of Miami-Dade County?
I see some confusion faces there.
I know. I see some of the confused faces because you're like county, right? There are two names here that we might know. Could be Dora the Explorer. You know, we don't know. But no, the current mayor of Miami-Dade County is Carlos Jimenez. The current mayor of City of Miami is Francis Suarez. And so another thing we'll explain later on in the presentation is these different layers of government, right? Between the federal, the state, and then there's local, which is broken up into county, and then also municipal. But for now, no. And also just something to note is that the mayoral race is something that's going to be on our ballot in November. So Carlos Jimenez cannot run again, so we're going to be electing a new mayor. Nikki R at the top. Here we go, folks. You got this. We got 4 more questions.
Who is the leader of the executive branch for the state government?
Nice. And for that one person, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. But way to go, everyone else. Yes, the leader of the executive branch, and we'll show you the executive, the legislative, and the judicial, which hopefully a lot of you learned. I learned it from Schoolhouse Rock. I remember that song like nobody's business. And so the state government, the person who leads the executive branch is the governor. The president leads the executive branch of the federal government, mayor and commissioner, similarly on the county and municipal areas. We're just shifting leaders. Way to go, hey.
Okay. How many county commissioners does Miami-Dade have?
Alrighty, a little bit of a mixed bag, but majority, way to go. We have 13 commissioners here in Miami-Dade County. So there are 13 distinct Miami-Dade County districts, and each of those people make up the legislative branch of our county government. And so they make laws and they represent, and you have to pay attention because for many folks, the county commission is actually going to be up for re-election this year or election this year. So something to stay tuned into. Stephen G.
Okay. How many municipalities are there in Miami-Dade?
There are 34 municipalities in Miami-Dade County, and each has their own mayor. Each has, well, okay, that's an exaggeration, but many of them have their own mayors. Many of them have their own government system. So that's a whole lot of municipalities that have elections every 2 or 4 years. And those are like little governments, municipalities that have their own structures and represent people. And then fun fact also, or these have all been fun facts, but a fun fact is that there's 34 municipalities, and then we also have unincorporated Miami-Dade. So unincorporated Miami-Dade is not represented on the municipal level by a municipal government, but they're actually governed by Miami-Dade County. So Miami-Dade County is not only a county government, but it's also a city government for some as well. All right, who's gonna be in the lead going into the last? Steven, way to go, you're holding on. Let's see if you can hold on to it through the last question.
Okay, so when is the general election day for 2020?
Nice. The majority of you got it right. Sear this into your brain. One of the things I would love, if you learn anything from this presentation that you come away with, is that voting day is November 3rd this year. That's for a whole host of really critical races coming up. And we'll talk about there's early voting, there's vote by mail, but November 3rd. Zzz. Oh, I almost didn't let you guys see the winner.
Okay, let's see. Third, Joni S. Congrats. Becca, second place. And Steph. Congrats, Steph. So you have earned the responsibility of teaching everyone what you know about county civics. Congratulations, thank you all for participating in the quiz.
Way to go, everyone. Congratulations to everyone who was on the podium, and thank you everyone for participating nonetheless. As you'll see, so this is gonna be a really interactive session today, all about civics. And so please in the chat, write your questions, and Yenny or Florencia will get them to us, or speak if you can. And yeah, I'm really excited to be here. Thank you again for inviting us. Hopefully that if you didn't get all of these right or you didn't win, the next time you see our faces and we do it again, or you're out in the community, you'll know these answers and you'll be able to show up everyone with your civic expertise. So let's get started deep diving into this civic engagement and elections for this year. As I mentioned in the quiz, right, we looked at voter turnout rates. And so on Vote Miami, which we'll go into, I'll explain what Vote Miami is, but just for now, there's a tab on our website called Get Geeky. I'm a proud civic geek. And so there's this cool infographic here, which breaks down the voter turnout rates in Miami-Dade County for 2018, 2016, and 2014, right? And I said 2016 was a presidential election, and we can see that generally the turnout rates are higher. They're still not as high as we would love them to be, right? We're aiming for that 100% of folks to be voting, because democracy works best when we're all involved in the system, when we all have a say in what represents us and the roles and responsibilities of elected officials. And so as you can see here in 2018, overall voter turnout was 57%, young folks 37%, and also voters of color came out of far lower rates as well. And the trend persists throughout each of these years, obviously spiking when there's more buzz around the election season. And so this is why we're here today, as I mentioned beforehand. We're here to improve these numbers, right? We all have a role and responsibility in improving these numbers, right? We can pen our friends and our family to go and do these things. So hopefully after this conversation, you'll be ready to help us out with improving these numbers. Before we start improving these numbers, I have a question for everyone that I'd love to hear your thoughts in the chat, or if anyone could speak them out. I'm curious to know, why do you think voter turnout is so low, especially amongst younger voters and voters of color? Is it lack of motivation? Is it voting difficult? Or do you think people just don't have the right information? What do you think the cause is?
I think it's,
You can write your questions, or you can just, I think you're able to mute yourself.
can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay, I think it's a
Yeah.
mix because we have people who are unaware of when voting is, of which day voting is, and they're unmotivated to know. So like for example, when you see those videos of people asking questions of American history, you'll be very surprised about the answers you get. I think Americans today are not as, let's just say, informed of how the government works, of how democracy works, and I think that we should promote voting. We should promote how the system works in order to get about certain things done, to get the things that we would like done, you know, because a lot of times we like to demand change, we want change, but we're not discovering the ways that we can do change and have the most impact doing it. So I just think it's a mixture of people being unaware of the ways they can do about change and the lack of motivation to discover those ways.
Thank you so much for sharing. Would you mind sharing your name? Who said that? I'm sorry, I can't see the screen.
Rebecca.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Rebecca, for sharing. I think a lot of people feel similarly to you, and they're sharing in the chat, right? Lack of information, lack of motivation, feeling.
There seems to
Nikki, in
be.
the chat, there's a,
Go ahead, Yanni, sorry.
no, I was just gonna say that in the chat, several people wrote the same thing. There's a split between lack of information, and also a lot of people think that their vote cannot make a difference. And for someone who works very closely with students, I can tell you that oftentimes I hear that. I don't think that my vote is gonna change anything. So that seems to be also a major reason why youth don't vote.
Mhm.
So you wanted to say something else?
No, I was pointing out the same thing, like, you know, from all the comments on the chat, is the biggest thing in common is that feeling that, you know, that going and taking the time to vote doesn't make a difference.
Mhm.
So then how do we change that, you know?
Yeah, and unfortunately, if a mass of people feel that similarly that way, we get the turnout numbers like we do in 2014 if we're not showing up, and then our voices aren't heard. Does anyone else have any thoughts on this question before we move on?
Hello, hi everybody.
Hi.
Yes,
I think
hi.
additional to this point, I think they have allowed the disagreement, because in both parties they have allowed for the last 10 years we disagreement with our own parties too. So when I say this election is only because wanna try to don't repeat themselves for the last 4 years. But when you try to convince the people, no matter what are they thinking? And they say, well, this is the same. Both parties not have the requirement that I want to do that I want to be represented. And I think that it is a little hard to try to convince too many people. And also it's because it's not a difference for the other cultures in South America, like in my country, Peru, is not obligation. They don't care. So I think for the last 3 years, too many millennials want to try to hear his voice heard. But more people, they don't care. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I think there are a lot of responses about the party system. And so I think in our belief in Vote Miami, right, is no matter where you land on the spectrum of things, democracy works best when everyone from across different varieties of humankind have their voices heard. And right, collectively, this is a collective project we have in this country. And so the more voices that are represented, the more represented elected officials are, and the better suited the society is for all of us. So I completely agree with all of you. And thank you so much, everyone, for sharing in the chat and speaking. And so we agree with you on everything that you all are saying. So we saw very similar things happening in Miami-Dade County through our research and through our studies. We saw people not gaining access to comprehensive information or access to resources. And so we together, this regional collaborative of community partners came together to try and solve this. And so that's born out of this was votemiami.org, which is what we're going to be spending quite a bit of time on today. And it essentially is, right, there is great information on the internet. It's there somewhere. It's just a matter of finding that information, right? Like as someone who is extremely into civic engagement, right? I said I'm a civic geek. I have had to spend plenty of time digging through the elections website to try and find a date or to try and sign up for things. Or I will even admit that Florida is a state where you have to reissue your vote by mail ballot. And I didn't know that. And one day I checked my status and I was surprised, oh, I'm not registered to vote by mail. And so even for the most civically engaged people, it can be difficult to stay plugged in and to stay active. And so I'm excited there are 3 steps to Vote Miami that we broke it down into. And so the 3 steps of Vote Miami are registering to vote by mail, making sure you're all set and good to vote. Second is learning. So learning about who your candidates are, and also how does your government function? Like, who are these people? Who am I electing? And then the third thing is mobilizing. So turning out your friends and family, because as I said, the most equitable democracy is when we're all involved and engaged in the system. And so we're gonna go through Vote Miami and we're gonna do the 3 steps together. And hopefully we'll get to learn along the way. And hopefully at the end, you'll all be civic stewards and you'll be able to help us out. And even if you can't vote, or you're not a citizen here, or you're younger than 18, or you're a returning citizen, like you still have a very active role in the civic process by engaging your friends and family and community, and there are other opportunities for civic engagement beyond voting as well, showing up at board meetings, making your voice heard at budget hearings, and just rallying folks. So just know you're represented here too, and I'll try and touch on that as well. But please keep in mind that these are not only for you to do, but also for you to relay to other people to hopefully get everyone else involved in the process as well. So are we ready to get embarking on this? Can I get like a thumbs up for like, I'm ready to embark on the Vote Miami? Yes, I love it. Good. Okay, so step 1, hopefully you remembered from a little bit ago, is register. So together, collectively, if you will open up another tab on your phone or go on your computer, or it's totally fine if it's like, I can't open up things on my phone, you can just save this in the memory bank for later. So we're gonna all check, this is Vote Miami, this is votemiami.org. And you should all check it out, and we're going to be playing with it this entire time. So the first step is register on the left-hand corner. And the first thing I would love for everyone to do is to check your voter status. It's this button right here. And that will take you to a page that looks like this. And you will type in your name, your first name, your last name, your birth date, I hope you're not a robot, but if you're not, that's cool too. Click I'm not a robot and click submit, and that should give you a screen that tells you your address, your name, and it should say like, are you an active voter or are you an inactive? And then also your party preference, because we're a party preference state, so you can put your political affiliation. So I'll give everyone maybe a minute and a half to go and check their registration status, and then I will remind you, and we'll be right back. So Zoom. All right, about 30 more seconds. Alrighty. Start to come back to me if you want another screen. Alex is a robot, but is still registered to vote. I'm a little concerned, but I guess robots can vote in this world. We'll allow that. So hopefully everyone checked if they're a registered voter. If you were active, you're currently registered to vote. If you're inactive, this is the next step for you would be Vote Miami, back to our homepage, and then you can either register online to vote or you can register by mail if you want to print out a form and send it into the supervised elections. And that, if you click on register to vote online, that should take you to this lovely page, and you can read it in English or in Spanish. And you can click register or update, and you can go through, it'll check your eligibility, and it'll take you all the way to the end process. So if you are registered to vote, I'm going to give you a slight break, but because this is National Voter Registration, because this is National Voter Registration Day, I want to be sure everyone on here, if they're eligible to vote, is registered to vote. So we're going to take 2-3 minutes right now, and we're gonna register. Everyone's going to register to vote if you're not registered to vote. And again, if you are ineligible to vote, that's fine. You can engage in the civic engagement process otherwise, or you can help register friends and family this way. So.
Nikki, sorry, while people are doing that exercise, we have a question from Stephanie, and she's asking, well, she's saying, I will be moving within the next 2 weeks. How do I go about changing my address?
That's a great question. Thank you, Stephanie. So you're going to have to re-register yourself at your new address when you move. So you'll be voting. You're in a little bit of a tricky situation because you'll be voting once you've moved. But just pick your location currently. I would leave the registration how it is. If you can stay on your current registration and your current address, that's fine. If you want to vote in your new address, then I would re-register using this form. There'll be a button that says update my registration form when you go back here. Register or update, see here. So you'll be able to update your address as well, but it's up to you which one you want to use the address for. Try and be more specific about, or like if you're staying in the same district, it shouldn't really matter, but no one's really gonna necessarily check. You'll just get your voter ID sent to the address later on. So for now, you're good. Whichever one you want to choose, you can update or not update. You're very welcome, Stephanie. Are there any other questions about this? Okay.
Nikki, there's one more question.
Go for it.
Oh, Gloria's asking, she already asked to receive the mail ballot. When is she supposed to receive it? It seems that she cannot change it to vote physical.
So y'all are good. You're jumping ahead a little bit, but I'll answer it now. So I also vote by mail. I haven't received, they start sending out vote by mail ballots about 3 weeks ahead of the election, 3 weeks to a month ahead of the election. So that's when you should start anticipating it. So October, I'd say like mid-October, you should be expecting a ballot in your mail. That being said, about, well, I'll talk about how else you can vote later on. And the next step is also requesting a vote by mail as well. Hopefully that answered your question, but I will talk about changing. If you want to vote physically, we'll talk about that coming up.
Nikki, are you going to talk about how people request to vote by mail? I have one question in the chat about that. We can wait to answer if it's part of what you're going to cover.
Yeah, that's also on, if you want to get ahead. If you already registered to vote, you can go back to Vote Miami, but I'm going to go through it with everyone as well. So about a minute left for you to start your registration. Don't worry if you don't finish it. You can minimize the screen and come back to it after the presentation. And please do. National Voter Registration Day, folks.
Guys, and if you're done registering or you're already registered, please feel free to put it in the chat.
Nice. So for the sake of time, I'm going to bring everyone back to me. Again, if you weren't able to register in this allotted time, please go back and do it. So as everyone was asking beforehand, there are 3 ways that you can vote in an election. So you can vote by mail, and how you vote by mail is there's a Vote Miami that you can receive ballot by mail, and that will take you here to this mail ballot request service that will take you through the entire process. And then you can also check the status of your vote by mail ballot once you send it in to make sure it was received and counted by going to Vote Miami and where is it? Oh, right here. You can click here, ballot status / precinct info, and that will take you to this page, which you can track it. It's really cool. It's like your FedEx packages, but for your mail ballot. And so for those of you who asked that, the other way, so you can vote by mail, but you can also, if you've received a ballot by mail, you can also take that ballot if you don't want to send it in the mail. Though I will say, I know that there have been quite a few rumors or things to scare folks away from voting by mail. If you send it in with ample time, the Postal Service is great and they're efficient, and they'll get it back to it. And you can also track the vote by mail as well to make sure it got there. And you can also make sure it was received, make sure your signature was good, and all of those other things that come with vote by mail. You can also, if you don't want to send it in the mail, you can drop off your ballot during early voting, which you can also vote early, October 24th to 31st, you can drop off your ballot at any precinct in Miami-Dade County. And on voting day, November 3rd, you can also drop it off at the supervisor of elections and a couple of other specific locations that you can drop your vote by mail ballot off And then you can also vote early in person. So October 24th to 31st, you can go to any precinct in Miami-Dade County and you can physically go in person. Obviously, please wear a mask. Please bring hand sanitizer. Do everything to keep yourself very safe while you go vote in person, but you can vote early. And then on election day, November 3rd again, you can vote in person, but only specifically at your precinct, which you can find here. So I'm sure there may be other questions, but I want to get through the content for the sake of time, and then I can answer questions at the end. So the next step in this Vote Miami journey is learning. So who represents you? Who are we voting for in this election? And as I mentioned during the quiz, there's the executive branch, the legislative branch, and the judicial branch. And then we also have the federal, state, and local governments. And so for each of these governments, you have each of these branches. And so, right, the federal executive is the president. The executive of the state is the governor, and the executive of the county is Miami-Dade County mayor. And then the executive of a municipality is county commissioners, or I'm sorry, mayor of municipalities. And so forth and so on, right? Congress, Senate, Supreme Court, all of these folks fit into these different layers of government. You can go to Vote Miami and you go to who represents us, and we have a breakdown of from top down, right? Local government, you have your executive, you have your legislative, and you have your judicial. And it goes through and it also shows you who each of these people, what do they control? Who comes above who makes decisions about what, right? What departments do these people oversee? Because a big part of voting is knowing, like, what do the people do that I'm electing? And how do they impact you and your friends and your family? And then the second part of learning about all of this is also, who am I voting for now? Who is up for election in November, on November 3rd? And so I want to encourage everyone to head to votemiami.org again. And there's this box right here in the middle where you can type an address. And so we partnered with a very cool online application called Ballot Ready. And basically you can type in your address. And so you can use your home address, or you can use the global learning address, which is, I'll put back up on the screen. And so I'm gonna, for the sake of this, I'm gonna pretend like I live in the Global Learning Initiative building at FIU. I know, who wouldn't want to do that and live with Florencia and Yenny all the time? And we'll see if you lived in that office, like, who would you be voting for? And so you can type in your address here. And you can opt in to get updates from Vote Miami if you want reminders or status updates, so you can hear from us. And then you click Get Started. And so this will take you to your ballot, essentially. This is going to be aggregating. It's going to be it's unique to your address. So you can either use if you use your home address, these are going to be people who are going to be on your ballot. And if you use the global learning address, this is just going to be a random exercise and example for us. And so this is where, right, again, if I live there, this is the candidates that would be on my ballot. And so you can go through here on the left and you can see everything that's going to be on your ballot. So the president is going to be on the ballot this year, as we all know, or as many of us know, excuse me. If you live there, there's a congressional seat that's up for election as well. That Carlos Jimenez, who is our mayor, is running for, and Debbie Mursal Powell is running for. And then there's also state candidates, so state attorney, Florida House, state Senate, and then there are also local candidates. So just like I said, there's a mayoral race, and they're the executive of the county. And you can actually click on each of these to learn more about who this mayoral candidate is. So Daniela Levine Cava, you can see her experience. You can see where she went to school and her education, and you can also see her stances on some of the issue areas around civil rights, coronavirus, and you can go through to each of them, and you go to, and for an example of someone who has filled out a lot of their experience and issues, so you can see for Joe Biden, who's running for president, he has a lot of issue area stances, and you can click on it and it'll take you to where this information was found. And so when you find someone that you particularly like and that you align your beliefs with, and you're like, yeah, I would love that person to be my elected official, you can go here and you can, so Ana Maria Rodriguez, I want to pick her, you click add to ballot. And it'll make selections for you through each of these races. And eventually, once you are done with that, once you're done with that, you can make a selection for each of them. And you can actually print or email. You can print your ballot and you can take it to the polling place with you, or you can have it next to you on the coffee table while you're voting by mail. Or you can email your ballot. You can email your ballot to yourself, or you can email it to friends and family in case everyone else wants to see how you're voting as well. And you also have links to each of these people's social media, so you can check out their stances and make sure they align with who you're trying to vote in, and that they believe in what you believe in and how government should function.
Vicky, does this include the judges?
So it does. It does include judges. There are quite a few judges here that it says I would be voting for. I don't know if you lived in your building that you'd be voting for all of these. They're still working out a little bit of the boundaries of where you're voting for, but many of the upper races are as well. But there are judicial races. It's just sometimes difficult to find information on judges. But I will say we also have a candidate 101 page here on the Vote Miami site. And so we oftentimes do the best we can in finding judicial races for Miami-Dade County.
And this is, Nikki, just quickly also, this is only for Miami-Dade County, right? So if you live in Fort Lauderdale, there's not a resource like this one, or at least not here. Maybe you can look up if there's a similar resource, correct?
So yes, thank you for that question. This is only for Miami-Dade County, though I will say Ballot Ready, if you just Google Ballot Ready, they often have a lot of these for other areas. And I also want to point you to, and it's a great segue, so thank you for asking. There is a page on Vote Miami called Resources, and that's how I'm going to end the presentation, but we also have some other resources here. So Engage Miami is a great organization in Miami where you have a voter guide. Vote 411 from the League of Women Voters, Transit Alliance. There are a lot of great questionnaires that come out from community organizations, helping you vote, helping you select if you align your political views with the organization. And so we try our best to consolidate all of those resources here, right? Again, so you don't have to go chasing all over the internet. We find you a consolidated place for all of these things to do your homework and your research. And so you can look at the resources and then you can go back here and you can say, I like X person, and you can choose them on your ballot. Okay, so now that I keep going back and forth. Now that you've made your ballot and you've printed it and you've emailed it to yourself, you can also, it's not ready yet, but once early voting starts, you can click a Find Out How to Vote button, and it'll take you through to, right now it's helping you vote by mail, but eventually you can choose what day you want to vote, if you want to vote early or on election day, and it'll also help you choose where you can vote. It'll tell you exactly on Google Maps, it'll tell you how to get there, and it'll send you text and email reminders to help you get there on the day and time that you select. You can make a calendar invite. A lot of really cool things will be up and running once early voting starts. Okay, third and final step is mobilize. So, right, the last step, you're registered to vote, you're informed and ready to vote, and now you have to get other people to vote as well. So I know we're running low on time, so I'm gonna move quickly through this. But here we have a map on Vote Miami. It's on the Get Geeky page at the bottom here. And it is basically a voter turnout map of entire Miami-Dade, and it's broken down into precinct, and then each precinct is broken down into voter turnout numbers by demographics. So it's broken up by how many Democrats came out to vote, how many Republicans came out to vote versus how many were registered, broken down by race, and also broken down by age. So specifically, you can see here, this is the Global Learning Precinct as well. I tried to do my best to keep it consistent. And so in this, it's about 90% registered Hispanic voters. But the turnout for Hispanic voters is only 61.04. Whereas for white voters, the registered was 9.26 and turnout was 65%. So as you can see, this trend is, this precinct is not accurately being represented by the folks who are registered to vote. There's a far lower turnout for those folks than disproportionately than the other demographics. And so this is another aim of ours, is to try and equalize this and maximize the turnout and make sure that it's equitable and all voices are heard in the election. So you all play a role in this. You can go to the map, you can zoom in on your neighborhood, you can see what turnout looks like there, and you can help us really bolster engagement where you are in your circles. And so if you want to help us ensuring all Miamians' voices are heard, be loud. Let's be super loud. It's National Voter Registration Day. Go out there and share it on your social media. Talk to your friends and family. Text everyone you know. Go. I'm telling you, I am a total civic nerd. The person who checks out my groceries at the store, I ask them, hey, are you registered to vote? And I help them get civically engaged in the process. We all have a role and responsibility in making this an equitable and fair and accessible tool for everyone to make their voices heard. And so you can share the website, votemiami.org. You can also share any of the pages. We also, on the resources page, here we have a bunch of social media images, and feel free to steal them. Feel free to use them as you like. You can drag them off the page. I'll show you, you can just drag them right off the page onto your desktop or anywhere. Feel free to use them, share them. Please tag at Radical Partners, put votemiami.org, push all your people to the website, and let's really help mobilize everyone. And with that, let's do it. Let's make all Miamians' voices heard. Thank you again to Yanni and Florencia for having us. I hope that was informative and helpful, and I hope you all engage with the website and share it widely, and we got this.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
So I guess I can take questions now if anyone had any throughout. I just wanted to get through the content.
Yeah. I want to tell my students, I love when our presenters kind of use up the full hour and are not respectful of people's time. So for those of you who have to go to class or whatever else, feel free to leave if you have to. But I think both Nikki and Rosanna are available for a few more minutes if people have questions. So feel free to also stay around. I do have one question that I wanted to ask, and it was, what if someone is registered to vote by mail and then they change their minds and they want to actually go and vote in person? Is there still a chance to do that? Do you know what the process is, or can we find that on their website?
Yeah, so it's a great question. If you vote by mail and you get your ballot and you're like, I don't want to vote by mail, you absolutely can take and forfeit the mail ballot. You have to take it to right during early voting, October 24th to October 31st. You can take it, anyone can vote in person during those dates at any precinct in Miami-Dade County. You can also fill out your vote by mail ballot and you can bring it to those precincts and they'll send it for you. Or you can take that ballot to the precinct and they'll shred it for you and you can vote in person. you have any of those options. So you definitely don't have to vote by mail should you not want to. And then also, if you want to turn in your vote by mail ballot on election day, you can take it there. They haven't announced them yet, but it's typically like government center, supervisor of elections, and then they choose 2 other convenient locations for you to go and drop off your ballot if you don't want to put it in the mail. Does that make sense, Yanni?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Does anybody else have questions that you want, or comments, or if, I know you had to rush a little bit through the end to make sure you finish on time, but if there's any other opportunities for involvement and supporting beyond sharing with your family and friends, which is for me one of the key things that we all can do, but is there any kind, I know that, and I think you didn't mention this in your presentation, but I know that there's this concern that there aren't enough people to actually work the elections, because the elderly population that usually volunteers, now with the pandemic, they don't necessarily are in a position to do so. And so we're looking to youth to be able to fulfill those roles. If you have any other resources or info on getting engaged in this, feel free to share those now.
Yeah, I love it. I hope you are all empowered to get engaged. And so, yes, there are definitely more opportunities. So on the website on Vote Miami, you can also sign up to be a poll worker, which is going to be huge. Just like Yanni was mentioning, it's going to be right because the elderly population does not want to, and rightfully does not want to risk their health. They're avoiding becoming poll workers, and that's typically the population that helps out at the polls. So if you want to help, you can sign up there. You get paid to do it, and they'll give you training, and it's a really great way. There's pay involved in poll working. So sign up, it's on votemiami.org. In the upper right-hand corner, you see if you want to get, it's under the mobilize portion. And then I also wanted to mention that not only poll working is not the only way to be engaged, because civic engagement is a year-round process. Civic engagement just doesn't happen during election season. And so I really encourage all of you, I know you're involved here with Global Learning, which is awesome and civically engaged, but there are other community organizations doing great work. As I mentioned, Engage Miami, Power U, Center for Social Change, League of Women Voters, YWCA Miami-Dade, and you can find those all on the resources page as well. And so I encourage you to take up leadership and really rally people, not only during elections, but all the time.
Yeah, Alexander was sharing on the chat that it's not just poll working either. The census also needs help. So just find ways to support your communities in ways where you still feel safe, that you feel that you're making a difference. And I know for the students of mine that are here, we're always encouraging them to think about the impact that they can have in their local communities. And those have ripple effects on the nation and other countries around the world as well.
Yep.
Any other comments, questions?
I was going to remind everyone, we are uploading this on YouTube, on our YouTube channel at Go Global FIU. So I will say, share this presentation, share the website, also share this presentation, put it on your social channels, and yes, let's get everyone moving.
I love it.
I'm checking for a few more minutes, and if not,
could you guys put in the chat your contact info in case anyone wants to email you or have questions or want to get involved with your organization?
Mm-hmm. Definitely feel free to reach out to me. And thank you all for coming and joining.
Thank you so much. Again, this was amazing. It was super useful, practical, theoretical in every way, every single way. It was so useful. I appreciate you so much. Yanni, you put this together. Any parting words? But see you guys next Tuesday.
No, I'm just excited to, I think it fell on the perfect day to celebrate and to get people encouraged and know that they can make a difference. And I will use any excuse to bring back some of my alumni as well. And Nikki, you have been wonderful too. Thank you so much for sharing these resources. As I was looking through the presentation, there are a lot of things that and I read a lot about this topic, and I try to be civically engaged, and there was stats that I was looking at. I was like, I have no idea. Especially when it came to youth, I thought that the numbers for people who show up to vote were higher. And so this gives me more motivation to keep working with young people to help them realize that their vote indeed makes a difference. And so hopefully the people who stay will walk out of here thinking, no, yeah, even though a lot of us think sometimes get discouraged that we cannot make a difference with our vote, that they'll change their minds and show up for the election. So thank you everyone for coming. We'll see you next Tuesday.
See you next Tuesday.
And I'll
Thank
see
you
you
for
then.
having us.
Bye.
Bye,
Thank you guys so much. Thank you for
Okay.
the work that you do.
Thank you.